the next two complaints are 2455 and 2456. Okay.
Can you see me or hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you. So, and this, Jim is handling both of them. They begin on page 7 of the materials. Jim, is this something that we can take up? Can we, are the issues the same in both complaints?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So we have no one from the challenger presenting. We do have the candidate wishing to make a presentation. My preference would be to consider these together if the issues are the same. There's no objection. And recall, is it, Jim, do you wish to say a few words about this before we set this up, before Mr. Gary speaks?
Sure, absolutely. I can do a quick summarization. Just noting for the record, the reason for the two challenges were because the commission had ordered separate circulation for the Congressional District 8 special election and then the general election, the special having been ordered by the governor. And so we felt that two unique circulations needed to occur, but essentially at its core, the challenges were alleging the same thing, some personal observation of what was alleged to be misleading the voters that were signing the circulation papers, basically alleging that they had been led to believe that the circulation papers were for housing for the homeless. We did do some analysis of the paperwork and determined that the headers were all correct and did indicate all of the lawfully required components that needed to be there, and that the voters would have likely been on notice of what indeed it was that they were actually signing. We also had a sworn response to the challenges that indicated that they were not misrepresenting those things. I think at its core, one important thing to note is that 5.05 subsection 2M sub A does indicate that the commission cannot initiate its own investigations and that it will only consider those types of criminal or fraud-based allegations based on a sworn complaint being filed. So it's not to say that we don't, take what is being alleged here very seriously, but I think we can only examine it in the context of the administrative record before us and whether or not signatures need to be struck. Certainly, anyone with personal knowledge of this would be able to file a sworn 5.05 complaint if they do feel that something had happened here. But in that context, there is no essentially sustainable challenge to the signatures based on the administrative sworn record that we have in front of us.
Okay. Mr. Attorney Gary, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can hear just fine. Remind me, Attorney or Administrator Wolf, we give them 3 minutes or 5 minutes? What's the rule?
Well, that's at the discretion of the chair, but I think we've been doing 3 minutes.
Okay, let's start with 3 minutes, Mr. Gary. There are two complaints. Hopefully you can get it finished within 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to keep this brief. I apologize for the video. For some reason, it doesn't look like it's working. So the complaints here are substantially similar. Essentially, what's alleged is that a circulator by the name of Joyce Kaplacki misled people into signing nomination papers for Tony Wied by referencing that the papers were for housing for the homeless. In particular, the affidavit says that on May 25th at the Green Bay Farmers Market, that the complainant overheard the circulator use the phrase housing for the homeless. As Jim just mentioned, we did submit a sworn affidavit from the circulator, Ms. Kaplacki, which directly refutes that contention. In particular, she's attesting that she did in fact inform everybody who signed the papers that the papers were for supporting Tony Wied's candidacy. She denies that she ever used the phrase housing for homeless or misled any of the signers. And of course, she attests to the fact that each of the nomination papers that she provided was fully complete with a header indicating that it was for Tony Wied in this general or special election as applicable for the Republican Party, for the office of representative in Congress in the 8th Congressional District. So our position is that with both the complaints, the allegations do not overcome the presumption of validity. The complaint fails to establish that anyone who actually signed the nomination papers was misled or that they didn't understand what they were signing at the time they signed. And therefore, the certifications of the electors, as well as certification for the circulator, are true and correct. And we request that the complaints, both of the complaints, be denied. So hopefully that was brief enough. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
And Chair Millis, I apologize. We told the candidates they had 5 minutes,
Okay.
not me, so my apologies.
Okay, well, if you have anything else to add, Attorney Gary? If not,
I do not.
okay. So the two motions.
Hey, Don,
Commissioner Thompson.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we lost Bob again.
Oh, we did. Sorry, I hadn't. Well,
Yeah.
Bob's, I see him there. Can you hear us, Bob?
Video is not on, but he is present.
Okay, he is present. I see him there.
Well,
Can you hear us, Bob?
I can hear you, but it
Good,
looks
okay.
like it's delayed.
Yeah. So maybe keeping your camera off may help.
On my end, for whatever it's worth, he does sound better now.
Yeah. So as much as we like to see your face, sometimes keeping your camera off will help. So,
Yep. I have it.
okay. So there are, again, two motions. One is on page 8 of materials. The other is on page 9. Would it be a breach of protocol if someone were to move both motions, Commissioner Thompson?
So moved.
Seconded by Commissioner Bostelman. If there's no further discussion, let me call the roll. Commissioner Spindell.
Yeah.
Calling the roll. Is that an aye?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
Aye.
Commissioner Bostelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Aye.
Commissioner Riepel.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion's adopted.